Who are you? What's your role? And where do you work?
Hello, I'm Guy. I'm the co-founder and CTO of ScaleOps.
What are three emerging Kubernetes tools that you are keeping an eye on?
That's a good question. There are many. If I need to choose only three, I'm very interested in the direction. Obviously, Carpenter is seeing it being adopted by the cloud providers as well. AWS is their auto mode. It's very interesting to see kind of where they're going to take it. So Carpenter and how it's being used in by the cloud vendors is definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. Cilium is always interesting, and eBPF as a technology and the capabilities it brings into the platform for observability and how it's being used in microservices and in general architecture is very something I think is very interesting. Seeing the adoption of Cilium, obviously, and eBPF across the board is something I keep track of. And last time, I'm always interested in multi-cloud, multi-cluster type of architectures and deployments. So Karmada is an interesting tool for me. I'm keeping an eye out on their work, multi-cluster and multi-cloud scheduling. Yeah, those are my current favorites.
Our podcast guest, Alexandra, wrote an article about over-provisioning. What strategies have you found effective in controlling over-provisioning in large Kubernetes clusters?
Yeah, that's a great question. In ScaleOps, we've seen like thousands of clusters in production, large clusters. I think the real kind of answer to over-provisioning and strategy is automation. I think once your cluster hits a certain scale, whether it's by resources, the amount of workload, things tend to fall apart, like processes break, tooling breaks, and the best strategy that we found is to invest for teams, DevOps teams, platform teams, SRE teams, to invest in automation of provisioning, resource allocation, resource requests. I think that's the best strategy to deal with over-provisioning at scale.
Our guest, Ken Zabe, said that he's been looking forward to in-place pod resizing for years. Carpenter turns 1.0. It's an exciting time for scaling and resource optimization in Kubernetes. Where do you see this field evolving in the future?
Yeah, it is. We've been waiting for in place for years, and it's really exciting to see the progress that the team has made over the past few months. And Carpenter, obviously, as I mentioned before, I think the trajectory the software industry is going is creating more software, more complex software, obviously fueled by AI. So I think as the amount of software artifacts increase exponentially, I think there is going to be a really, really focus on automation and scaling and auto-scaling on every dimension of the cluster and workload, be it the resources, be it the amount of replicas, be it on the pod level or the workload level or on the node level. So on even the multi-cluster level. So I think auto-scaling is going to evolve tremendously over the next few years. It's fueled by the advancement in AI driving the sheer volume of services being deployed. I think that's going to increase dramatically over the next couple of years. It's already happening now. So I think that's kind of the next steps for scaling is multi-dimension. And then I think there's going to be a real focus for a lot of organizations and teams to really up their game and focus on auto-scaling on every aspect of their workloads.
Ken Zabe also suggested that developers should ideally handle pod-level optimization, such as setting requests, limits, etc. How can organizations bridge the knowledge gap for developers who aren't Kubernetes experts?
Now that's a good question. So I think historically, as software evolves, the level of abstraction gets higher, and the details and the interworking of software gets encapsulated into infrastructure. And I think the same would apply here. So I think there's an emergence now of infrastructure and platforms that hides the complexity of managing resources and the internal workings of Kubernetes and workload settings, and those aspects are being automated for developers, and all of those aspects are now being exposed as higher level, and abstract level for developers. So I think the way forward is encapsulating more and more concerns in platforms that automate different aspects of the underlying infrastructure, while exposing developers to higher level abstractions regarding their workloads, their cluster dynamics, traffic patterns, etc. So that's kind of the line we're following. And I think that's a way to bridge that gap.
Miguel Bernabeu Diaz shared that Adevinta migrated their Kubernetes cluster to support ARM instances and workloads because they are more cost effective. Do you have any practical advice on reducing your Kubernetes costs?
Yeah, well, reducing Kubernetes costs seems at first as a simple solution, as a simple problem, but you need to really approach it from a multi-dimensional kind of aspect. You need to optimize resource allocations for the workloads, selecting nodes, proper node types, CPU architectures, deal with horizontal scaling as well. So I think the best advice I could give is approaching it from a holistic view and trying to optimize, all of the different facets of the problem to kind of gain the really upside of cost savings on Kubernetes. So that's kind of our take on the problem. And yeah, it's a difficult. It seems it's sneaky. It seems so simple, but if you don't address all of the different dimensions of the problem, you kind of fall short. So my advice would be to really tackle cost optimizations on each layer of the problem, from the workload to vertical scaling, horizontal scaling, and node selection.
Kubernetes turned 10 years old last year. What should we expect in the next 10 years?
Okay, wow, that's a really interesting question. I think software is changing. Obviously, the rise of LLMs and RAG architectures will change and is changing the way software is going to be built. I expect much more software being created over the next years. I think the growth in software artifacts is on the rise. It's not growing linearly, it's growing exponentially. And I think that we'll see much more adoption of Kubernetes, of containers, of complex architectures. So I think, Kubernetes turns 10, but I think that due to the rise of AI driving really the new software creation models, I think it's only the beginning. I think Kubernetes is the operating system of the future, and I expect it to grow exponentially over the next few years, driven by AI. That's my personal belief.
What's next for you, Guy?
I love the progress we're making at ScaleOps, helping our customers and our users work better with Kubernetes, saving costs, increasing performance. So, I'm excited to see the future of ScaleOps and working with our users and customers to simplify, cost savings and adopting Kubernetes even further. So that's my future. I'm looking forward to interacting with anyone.
How can people get in touch with you?
I'm free, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, Guy Barron. Reach out at scaleups.com, Twitter, Reinoff, on social media, and just reach out and say hi.